Suppose these statements come to you without a title. Suppose you do not know that they are coming from the Upanishads. How would you respond to them?
Too abstract.
Too abstract, right?
Maybe the same. I will react the same.
The same?
Yeah.
So would you actually devote so much of time and respect to them, irrespective of the title that they have? Suppose you just find these written on a sheet of paper somewhere. No introduction, no heading, no explanation, just these statements. Would they still carry the same weightage for you? Would they? Would they? We would like to say yes.
It may seem like a code language. What it means.
That in some ways the whole message of the Upanishads. To the mind, the name matters so much. To the mind, the name matters so much.
Too much.
Too much. And that is an understatement. It might be possible that to the mind, the name is everything. Might be possible that some of the statements that have come to us here right now may not be from any Upanishad, but still we would accept them and try to make sense, some sense out of them, because they carry the name of the Upanishads. Without that support, without that name, we would have simply ignored or rejected that statement or statements. Yes.
I have quite a lot of experiences, quite not one, just when in a circle where I am living or being together, like in that meditation stuff. Many times I tell something and nobody really even not noticing. Then later on I'm in the same situation. The person who has the title, who is like a honorable, like a strong person in a spiritual way, and he maybe say just the same, even sentences can be the same. And then later on people says, oh, have you heard? Oh, such a beautiful. You know, the same people who maybe weeks or months back even didn't notice the same words. And sometimes it is hard to just bear, you know, the ego comes up, oh, I was, you know, but we give so much to the name, and there is so much experiences of all of us. If, you know, so-called teachers, gurus, holy people, they will say, eat shit. Or they will just shit on some way. And the other people will say, oh, this is holy way of shitting. And they will try to find some holiness out of that. Because the so-called holy or famous person has done that. So the name is so important to the mind, as you said. I can only bow to it.
How does it help the mind to have names? Why does the mind find it so comforting to deal in names?
Fixity. Certain fixity.
Hmm?
Fixity.
Certainty.
Security.
Certainty, right? Once I know that a thing is what I know it to be, then I am relieved of the need to inquire into it. Something new comes, let's say a new person, I'll have to ask a lot. I'll have to pay attention. I'll have to be open. An old acquaintance comes, the name is sufficient. Who is knocking? Okay, it is Rajul Garg. Now the name Rajul Garg is an assurance. Plus it relieves me from the need to pay attention, the need to work, the need to find out. It may also be possible that the mind fundamentally has very little capacity to reach directly by itself into the truth. So it needs names. If names are not there, it will have to find out, and finding out is probably impossible for the mind, at least for the usual conditioned mind. So it will have to deal in names. Name is knowledge. Name is the assurance that I know. Thereby, name is the stuff of ego. See whether whatever you know has a name or not. Is it possible to know? Is it possible to have knowledge without name? Is it possible to have knowledge without a label or a code? Is it possible to have knowledge that the ego cannot call or summon? You see, I ask you something. The question challenges you. The question challenges you, and if you are not up to the challenge, then you will feel reduced, hurt. The ego is at stake. So the moment you are asked something, the ego sends a message to the knowledge database. And from the knowledge database, help arrives. The help is in the form of knowledge, obviously. From the knowledge database, help will be in the form of knowledge. And one uses that knowledge, the ego uses that knowledge to defend itself. how is the ego able to call knowledge and resources from that database? Please understand the process. The process consists of the following steps. First of all, whatever seems to be happening, the sensual inputs that the ego gathers, is forcibly related to some previous experience. The word forcibly is important because actually whatever is happening has no relation at all with the past. Even that which appears like a fruit of the past, even that which appears like having a causal link with the past, actually has no link. But it is the ego's helplessness and necessity to relate it to the past. So a label is put on the happening, and that label is not new. That label is something that the ego must have necessarily used before, encountered before. So you see a man of a certain ethnicity, and immediately the ego, having already put the label of ethnicity, also puts another label, enemy. So the man is approaching you. The first label has already been put. The first label refers to the ethnicity. The ethnicity could relate to religion or color or geography or anything. The second label is enemy. Now another search happens in the knowledge database. Enemy of this particular ethnicity, what to do? And from there help arrives. From there a ready-made answer arrives. Do this. And now the ego can do that. It is a very blind process. The ego really does not know anything about anything. But it has a large collection of memories. The whole of mankind's collective consciousness is available to the ego. It's a very large database. And the ego is good at searching. It hardly ever forgets anything. Whatever enters the database, the ego is quite skilled at quickly searching it. And thus we go on living. This is what we call as life. Something happening, naming. Now the naming acts as a pointer. To search from a large database, you require a reference variable, don't you? Indexing. So the name helps in indexing. What you call in computer science as, you remember, the primary key. Naming is that. Do you see how blind the whole process is? And this whole process is the whole of our life. We know, I repeat, nothing about anything. But we go on living, we go on reacting. And it appears as if the whole thing is coming out of careful consideration. It appears as if there is great wisdom behind our responses. If the whole of the database could be opened up, it would be very, very possible to predict our future. The future is the movement of time, the future is the next response. And the next response is so very already known. Does not sound very interesting, all of this. Does not sound very attractive, all this, does it? If it doesn't sound very interesting, then how can it be any better to live this?